NRL SuperCoaches, I wanted to go through a quick strategy video overall, the big thing, but obviously some head-to-head stuff, some boosting strategy, and a little bit of player picking strategy as well. So just all in one, very short video, get you set in ready for Vegas. We're about 8 days away now by the time this comes out. So that's crazy talk there. Absolutely crazy that we're here, and I'm so excited for it. And let's kick it off with our strategy points. 26 players is a lot. Especially if you hear from, the fantasy side, 21 players we're dealing with over there. It's the best 17 of 18 as well. So I feel like there's a lot of risks that can be played in this setup. And that's how you win NRL SuperCoach. It's high scoring and risk win, basically. Plotters is what we're avoiding. So let's get that out there straight away. Plotters keeps you back in the rankings. With this setup of 26 with the best 17 out of 18, I think taking more risk is going to be the play, as I said. And when 9 players are on the pine every single week, it's pretty wild. 9 players aren't going to score for you. I think you can take a big risk on, cheapie that is next up as well. Something there where, if you think they're one injury away and they're an absolute jet, let's just say Rob Toya doesn't make round 1, which he probably will, but that type of player, if he wasn't to make round 1, I think you select him anyway, because he's going to get that opportunity at some point unless he got injured in Cup. And there's space for that in a 26-player team, especially in the center wing or second row forward, where you have lots of potential options, lots of bench spots as well. That type of play can work out well. And if you're worried about job security of a guy like, let's just say, if you really like Tamale and you think he had some upside, could only have 1 week in the side. Some of these guys like Jack Cole, those types, guys that we're looking at that might not get the spot. Longer term, Tom Duffy, Jackson Purdue, those types of guys, they're likely, even if they lose their spot, they're the next man up. And if injuries happen, they stay in the side or they come back in really quickly. And you have space for that in Supercoach, where you have less space for that in fantasy. Number 3, the prices, they fly up and down. Something I fell into a trap last year, it really comes to my brain all the time, is Jermaine Osako. He had a pretty tough start to the season. He then had a couple of good weeks in a row, and you're like, okay, maybe he's back. But in those 2 weeks, he got back-to-back tons or whatever it was, 90-odd and 120, 140 even in one of them, and had a really low break-even. But if you looked at his price, it got fairly high already. And you need to look at that price point and go, is he more likely to get back to that price point for the long term? Sorry, to stay at that price point for long term. Is he a chance of getting higher than that and staying there? Or what are the chances that he goes out and knocks out 240s back to back? I swear this didn't happen. And he drops right back down a couple hundred K. And that's exactly what happened with him. That's what happened with guys like Tungo as well. I brought them in thinking they were still, they were going to be fairly cheap to what their output could be. But I bought them both near that 700K mark. And they do have to continue scoring really, really well. Because if they hit a couple of 50s in a row and then have the odd good one in there in amongst some low scores, which they both had last year, then their value in your team is an absolute big loss. They're down 200K and you've just wasted that money on getting them instead of getting someone like a Jacob Kiraz, who is at the top of the list and is very consistent with their base and power and all the good stuff like that. So be aware of when you buy that guy that's got the lower break even. Are you buying him at 500K or are you buying him at 700K? So I think that's a massive one that can really derail your season. Because if I picked Karaz instead of picking Isaac Tungo, or if I went for Lomax a bit earlier, yes, he might have been 100K more expensive than an Osako. Maybe not the best buy rounds draw, like we saw with Dolphins, for example. Then I would have selected someone like Lomax for the extra 50 or 100K. Or whatever it was at that point, and I have a very different season to coming 2000th. They come in the top 1,000 very comfortably just on those 2 decisions alone. So sort that out in your side and make it work. Number 4, build to your best 18 as quick as possible. It's as simple as that. With 26 players, your best 17 out of 18. Very, very easy to navigate the buy period, given you only need your best 13 in big buy rounds, and then with the extra player only needing 17 out of your 26, there's still 9 players you can have that can be on the buy or not backing up from Origin in those minor bye weeks. So build to that best 18 as quickly as possible so you have upside guys on your side and you can have a tremendous season like that. I think they're the 4 strategies, guys, that are going to keep you pushing in the right direction, because plotters, like I said in number 2 there, they keep you stagnant. They might help you a tiny bit in the buy period, but we've seen over the last couple of years, and myself anyway, having those guys holding them, it doesn't work. It doesn't help you increase your rankings through that time, and they're not making cash. And so use your trades wisely, especially at the beginning of the year. Now, boosting strategy, earlier the better, in my opinion, to make cash and set up your team quicker. It's as simple as that. You do get 2 trades a week in the early going, but if you use one of those 5 boosts each and every week for the first 5 rounds, that is awesome. Do you need to use it in round 2? I don't think so. Unless you really stuffed up and you got a heap of injuries, then you can use it. But I do think for round 3, round 4, round 5, they are super important weeks to boost, because they're the weeks that players are starting to move and change prices. Round 3 especially, and then round 4, you got guys like Tino, you got Fafita, you got Keeney, you got Campbell, Beau Fermor, those types of guys there, that Brimson, that can be pretty interesting in that Titans outfit, that you might want to trade in as well in round 4. And then, someone might miss one of those games in there, and then in round 4 or 5, they're changing in price as well. And you want to get rankings points in the right direction in those early weeks, and that's where boosting can do that. You obviously don't want to go completely nuts with it for no reason. Like, if it's a clear guy that you really want, if it feels right, go for it, but don't waste them, obviously. It's as simple as that. Get wins in your head-to-heads as well, and get a good early rank, or you can plod your way to no glory, is what I had in there. And that pushes us to the head-to-head strategy there, and it's very, very similar to that of overall, in the fact that you really want to push hard early. And I think he saves trades through that middle period as a head-to-head type of player. Depending if your head-to-head leagues push you to play in those round 12, 15, 18 this year. Sorry, best 13. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I was just thinking I said round 13 for big buy, but no, best 13. So round 12, 15, 18 are going to be those important ones that you may not have a game in those weeks. But even if you do, if you're in a really good position, you can just continue building to that best 17, best 18. And yes, you might have a few guys out, but if you've got 13 on the park, they're all pretty good scorers for the most part. There's 13 other guys there that you can have guns sitting there. You can have a few guys missing, that odd plotter that's still kept in your side, the odd cheapie that's not playing right now, and still score really well in those weeks. So get yourself started in a good position early, get those wins stacked up. So then people must adjust to you rather than you adjusting to them. That's the easiest thing in the world, the best thing that you can do in the world, because they're going to have to get point of difference type of players. You're going to have majority of the best players in your side, and they're going to have to take a risk to try and beat you. If it happens, by all means, good on them. But most likely, if you have built up to the better side, on paper, it's a bit more popular, let's say, for good reason normally, then they have to do something different to beat you. Similar. It's very, very similar to overall, to be honest, until the final series. Some people might be chasing overall glory, where if you just stuck solid with your head-to-head side, you could probably beat your opponent in those weeks. And you're looking at matchups rather than for overall. You might be in a head-to-head finals as well, but you're focusing on making the best decision to try and beat people that may be ahead of you in the rankings, but you could be the number 1 player coming into your head-to-head finals, and you're just comparing to them. They're going to try and outdo you, and you're going to try and just stay ahead of them if that's where you're at. If you're catching up the whole time, it makes it harder. You have to push and make those risky type of plays. All right, some chat on picking guns, picking mid-range, and picking cheapies, and the rules around that. With the guns, personally, I think you only pick the top price guns that are unlikely to increase too much in value if they have upside into the hundreds and they don't feel overpriced. A mistake with this for me last year, we obviously had Cleary and Hines at a tremendously high value. They didn't start too well. Hines was a little bit better than Cleary. Cleary got injured, but guys like Dylan Brown were the big one for me. They're coming off their best season. They are a bit more of a consistency, meat and potatoes type of player. Yes, they have the odd 100 in them, but we're buying him at sort of peak price. And it was similar with Cleary and similar in Hines, and people that started really well didn't begin with those 3 guys. So with those players, you're looking at the most upside positions, which heads into number 2 in fullback, in halfback, and in centre wing. These are the best positions. So you want to use your big money guys and have your big money guys in these 3 positions. And obviously fullback's the most important. And that's why with the strategy of having 2 or potentially 3 guns now, With Latrell out, I think it makes it a bit easier to just go 2 guns with Yongi. But you could definitely still go the 3-gun route with Drinky and Walshy and all these types of players that you could muck around with as well. Pap could even get a run as well. That's where you want to spend a lot of your cash. Second row forward can be fun as well, but they do need to have the try scoring upside. Guys like Crichton, guys like Fafita, these top players there, they have the try scoring upside and the 100 plus upside. Outside of the GOAT, consistency man Yo. Yes, I've come from the fantasy side where he is an absolute legend, but his price is 727 as well in SuperCoach, so he can score really well also. But you might be buying him at peak price in SuperCoach where he's not one of the best players, averaging 72.7 when there's guys like Tedesco at 95 when he plays full games. In fantasy, he's basically a top scorer with Cleary because, it's those two. They're the GOATs. So that's where the upside comes into it in SuperCoach compared to that of fantasy. Number 3, having someone at that gun level price to start across all positions is ideal. I think if you can have something there, maybe not in hooker, but we'll see. If it doesn't work out perfectly, you may want a Watson or a Grant in that position. But last year, the mid-range strategy didn't work. Therefore, second row forward and centre wing, they're very vulnerable because they're a position where you've got 7-8 players in there. So if you get that wrong with no guns and you're just sitting with cheapies and mid-ranges and it doesn't go the way you want to, then it can be tough and it can really slow you down. And I felt that with myself last year. So I'm personally going to rectify that, at least have one really solid, close to 600-700k player in both those positions and work around that, which I think we can do without Hines and Cleary being at astronomical near 900k, $1 million type prices, and the guys in the fullback position aren't astronomical either. Same with 5'8", you're not having the Dylan Brown at crazy numbers and all that type of stuff. So I think we can definitely have a better, well-rounded side, and I think that makes it hard if you do have the 3 fullbacks to really spread that money across your team. But that's the risk you might take if you want the 3 best scorers in the game at fullback in like Ponga, in Teddy, and someone like Turbo. It's up to you how you do want to play that, but that's something I'm personally going to do. Doesn't mean you have to, but these are my rules. And if you want to abide by them, go for it. But the second one there, picking your mid-range rules. I've got 2 there. You're looking for DPP. I think that really helps in that position. You can flick them around rather than being like, oh, they're really annoying. They're just sitting in this position. Even if they're not scoring tremendously or have the crazy upside, they help you with flexibility. Number 1 there, are they a plotter? Or do they have that try-scoring upside? And what is their job security? The 3 things I think you need to look at. Plotter, try-scoring upside, or attacking upside with assists and whatever else, and is their job security pretty good? I think if their job security is not super incredible, but they have lots of try-scoring upside, then it could be worth a punt. They could have job security, but they score you like 40 and 50, and it's like, ugh, it's not really that helpful for us anyway. Number 3, the goal is to get them to a gun as soon as possible. So if you do go for the attacking try-scoring upside, then they could go on a 3-4 game run, score a try every week, like we saw with, I was just looking at Stone Street now that Sione Katoa's out. And for Stone Street, you're looking at tries every game for him. And so, that type of upside in a good team with try scoring could be really, really cool because you can get them in 4 or 5 weeks to a really high price and you can move them to a certified, consistent gun. And last, to finish off this video, and a big thanks to everyone for being here. Please hit subscribe, follow along on the podcast as well, guys. Fantasy Jamie under that as well. And if you haven't looked into the private group, I do have prizes for SuperCoach as well. There's less people that play SuperCoach, so you can get in and do that. And if you like playing fantasy and SuperCoach, jump into that. You're absolute legends. But with the cheapies, it's the same as number 1 above. Plotter, try scoring upside, job security, and good team, I think is the big one for cheapies as well, to get off the mark and get scoring quickly. For number 2, there's room for 1 cheapie, as I said at the start, maybe 2 that are really good players, but are probably 1 injury away or have limited job security because someone else could be coming back quickly and they could jump into that spot. But if there's an injury, if you're a winger, there's 2 wingers in that side. If one of them goes down, or a center even, you could be cover for that whole back line. If the fullback goes down, winger goes to fullback, and you come in, or that player comes in. It'd be nice if we went in, actually. Or do I want to get pumped by these guys? Probably not. I'll stick to cricket and basketball and stuff like that I play. But yeah, getting sidetracked now. That's, it's the type of play you want. They could be cover for 5 positions, which, one of those guys is likely to get injured at some point in the first 3 to 5 rounds. or miss a week for a concussion or whatever. And number 3, and the last one, is try not to leave yourself short in hooker, fullback, halfback, and 5/8, because they've only got 2 spots, right? If your gun has an injury or a bye, let's just say you're a cheapie, we're probably not playing you week to week. If your gun next to you in the starting side has that injury, has the bye, concussion, whatever it is, you're forced to play them in that week. So concussion, definitely they miss 1, maybe 2 weeks, and then a bye, definitely 1 week. Injury, you probably, if it's longer than a couple of weeks, you're probably trading that gun anyway, and it doesn't make as much of a difference. But for those single week stuff, you're going to have to play them in that spot. Lastly, though, on that little point, is that it might not matter too much because you have best 17 out of 18, and that cheapie may end up being your lowest score that week, and it's completely fine. So we'll leave it at that, guys. That's a strategy for Supercoach from an overall perspective, a little bit on head-to-head. You're boosting and picking players. Plenty to do for the next 8-9 days, whatever it is, by the time this video comes out. We're having trials just after this video comes out, and I'm super excited to see how it all goes. And hopefully we do find out more information and don't get any more injuries to players that are great watching, and that is everyone, because they're all Jets. So we don't want any more injuries. Nothing bad anyway. We can have little ones, right? Because that's how life goes as a footy player. But that's it. See you guys. Thank you.